If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I love this poem so much. And what's crazy is I didn't even initially plan to memorize it. It's just I've read it to myself so many times over the years that it's just locked in like that. Why do I love this poem so much? Some backstory about myself before we get started on this analysis. This poem changed my life. I've done this analysis before, but I didn't actually go into enough detail about why it was so significant to me and how each tenet of the poem strictly applies to how to be the best man you can be in society. Here's my backstory real quick. Okay, so I grew up with arguably the best man in the entire planet. My father is phenomenal, okay? A great example of what it means to be a good man to his family, to his friends, his loved ones, and to society in general. Why is it then that I struggled with my masculinity for so long? Well, it's quite simple. I, like a lot of other men, grew up being told time and time again that men are trash, men are pigs, men are slobs, men ain't ish. Insert any negative adjective to describe men. We've all heard it time and time again, okay?
Do you think it's okay to say things like men are trash?
I feel like yes, and I have a reason.
Okay, why?
I feel like statistically, like men have been trashed for so long, for so long. I'm talking beginning of time.
And it messed with me. I used to be really confused. Like, well, my dad's really good. He's always been good to me. He's been good to my mom, been good to my sisters, my brother, right? Like, I was just confused. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to live up to my dad when people were telling me that simply because of my gender, which I can't control, I'm a terrible person. Okay, so. All that changed when I was in junior or senior year of high school and stumbled across this poem at a time where I was starving to hear a message about men being benefits to society, how men could be good and do right by people. It's something I had a lot of internal struggle with by the time I came across this poem. And by the time I saw it, I was like, there we go. This is something I can work with. And this might sound super exaggerated, but I promise it's not hyperbole. I would not be the man I am today were it not for this poem. All right, so let's get started.
And here we go.
If you read the title, you probably noticed the word stoic. A stoic is an individual who practices stoicism, or the philosophy of not being emotionally moved off center by both hardships and pleasures. All right, that means when bad things happen to you, when trials come your way, you're not broken by them. It doesn't destroy you. You're able to keep moving forward, right? But also when good things come your way, you don't get so carried away by them that you forget what's important to you and lose yourself in the process. Being emotionally unmovable. Now, anytime I talk about stoicism, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's in person with other people, I always get this comment of, oh, that sounds like toxic masculinity. That sounds unhealthy. Y'all, look, I am not saying stoicism is ignoring your feelings. The philosophy does not suggest that you not have emotions or you ignore them. It simply says when you feel them, you may process them, just don't let it move you off center from a position of internal peace. You maintain internal peace no matter what comes your way. All right, I'll get into an analogy about that later on in the analysis, but I just wanted to set that premise because I don't want you to interpret this poem as toxic or unhealthy. I think every young man should read this poem and understand it for what it is, as I did. All right. If by Rudyard Kipling is a poem that contains 4 octets. An octet is an 8-line stanza. So 4 octets means 32 lines total. You'll also notice that there's a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D per octet. Okay. And also each octet is made up of 4 couplets. A couplet is simply 2 lines. So there's 4 pairs of lines that make up 1 octet, and each pair, each couplet, tells a unique message as it pertains to masculinity. The first line of each couplet has 11 syllables, and the second line of each couplet has 10 syllables. Why Rudyard structured it that way, I'm not sure. Maybe he's mirroring a common form of poetry that I'm unaware of. I don't know, but each line pretty much goes 11 syllables, 10 syllables, 11 syllables, 10 syllables, 11 syllables, 10 syllables, 11 syllables, 10 syllables. And that's 1 octet essentially, all right? I'm going to briefly mention some poetic devices that are pretty common in this poem, and then I'll actually break down how each line addresses masculinity in some form or fashion. So we have anaphora. Anaphora is the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses or sentences. The poem constantly repeats the phrase, if you can, if you can, if you can, which builds up anticipation from the readers for what to expect if a person can actually do all of the tenets mentioned in the poem, right? It builds you up with suspense, kind of wondering, like, if I can do all these things, what's going to become of me? And we know the ending. Yours is the earth and everything that is in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son, right? So that's the outcome. And the buildup is created by the if you can repetition. Next up, we have the literary device known as antithesis. That's where 2 contrasting concepts are positioned against each other. Examples that exist in the poem would be triumph and disaster, wise versus fools, truth versus lies, broken versus built, winning versus loss, crowds versus kings, foes versus friends. If you notice from my earlier reading of the poem, all of those concepts are not only mentioned, but are juxtaposed against one another. So the first couplet, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. That highlights mental stability in the midst of chaos and scorn from others. All right. This couplet has assisted me multiple times in my life where I've been in a position of leadership. Now, if you're familiar with leadership in any kind of way, when the group wins, the leader gets the credit. But also, when the group loses, the leader also gets the credit for the loss, if that makes sense, right? I often encountered situations where things wouldn't go according to plan, the plan would go awry, everybody would be freaking out, and they'd be looking at me like, hey bro, I thought you were supposed to lead us. Why isn't everything going according to plan? Or maybe your plan sucks or something like that, right? By remembering this couplet in those situations, I was able to remain level-headed in spite of things not going according to plan, in spite of people turning on me who are supposed to be under my leadership, right? And I was able to steer the ship back on course and make sure that we got to the other side of whatever struggle we had as a group. Now, something interesting to note is that in the process of me incorporating this couplet as well as others in this poem into my life and adapting the traits that are described, I noticed I wasn't only becoming a better man who was able to conquer the world, but also specifically in the dating game. All right. If you look at this couplet here, it's telling you to remain level-headed when things go wrong. A girl will often want to feel that she's secure with her man, that even when things start falling apart, he's not going to lose his mind or go crazy or be like, what are we going to do essentially? And by me adopting this quality of level-headedness, even when things didn't go according to plan, maybe during a date, by her seeing that I'm able to remain calm, it kind of makes her feel safe, I've noticed. I don't know, if you're a girl and you're watching this, I mean, let me know if you can confirm or deny that having a guy who remains level-headed in spite of things going wrong is something attractive or not. But I personally noticed when I started adopting this trait, it helped me there too. Anyway, next line. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. This is a strong sign of confidence, right? Belief in oneself without getting emotional in response to others doubting you. Because that's a temptation to happen. If you really believe in yourself, but other people are doubting you, you might start doubting yourself too. Or you might lash out against them doubting you. But making allowance for their doubting is saying, okay, I understand you don't know me the way I know me, but I'm him.
You can't take him out. He's different. He's not the same. You are you, but he is him.
I'm him, baby. Nah, I'm playing. But really, like that's the mindset you gotta have, right? You have to first have confidence in yourself to complete whatever you set out to do, but also make allowance for others doubting you. Accept the fact that not everybody can see in you what you see in yourself, and keep moving forward. All right. Loved ones and friends, for example, have often expressed their doubts about me being able to make it as a poet. Well, I'm a poet ambassador now, a poet life ambassador, which is pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I've made it necessarily. I wouldn't go as far as to say that. Not even close. There's heights I want to reach that I haven't come close to reaching yet, but I'm definitely going to reach them, right? And I understand people are only doubting me because they don't see many poets make it. And that's fair. I understand that completely. I'm still about to grind, my G. I'm about to grind. Anyway, next up we have, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting. So this line particularly highlights the importance of patience and delayed gratification. Being able to suffer through something for a long time before you reach the goal you want, knowing that the end result will be worth it. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting. This has done a great deal for me in terms of my pursuit of success in poetry. All right. I know I said I have confidence to succeed even when others are doubting me, but that doesn't mean the wait can't be hard sometimes. Bro, the wait is hard. I ain't gonna lie, bro. It is. I've been trying for years. I'm not gonna stop. You feel me? This line helps me maintain consistency in my pursuit of success. Or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. This line highlights the importance of maintaining integrity and love, even when people's dishonesty and cruelty puts your reputation and safety in jeopardy. All right, very important as a man, maintaining integrity. Your word is everything. That's something my father taught me too. Like, your word as a man is everything. So do not lie. Do not be dishonest. Do not deceive people. All right. So, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. That's what the poem says. Even when people are lying about you, don't lie back. Keep integrity no matter what. That is the importance of that. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. Remain your genuine self. Remain your true self. If you love on people, just because you're being hated, don't revert to hate back. If you're a person who loves, maintain that, my G. Right? And that's what I'm talking about. Internal fortitude. That idea of stoicism. Even when things are going awry, even when people are hating on you, you remain fixed in who you are.
Remember who you are. You are my son and the one true king. Remember.
But then there's that next line. Here's an interesting line. And yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. It took me a long time to understand this line in particular. In fact, I would say this line, more than all the others, used to confuse me for the longest. I was like, what the heck? What do you mean I'm not supposed to look too good or talk too wise? Shouldn't I be good to others? Shouldn't I be wise to others? It took a while for me to realize that if you look too good or talk too wise, you can become a threat to other people. People will either become jealous of you or you'll become what they think is an obstacle for them to reach their own goals. You see what I'm saying? So you want to, I'm not saying dim your light as a man if you notice that there's an area you're excelling in, but don't go out of your way to showcase your talents and skills that you can bring to the table to just anybody. Be mindful of where you're at and think accordingly and act accordingly. Y'all see what I'm saying? In fact, if you need an example of what I mean, I remember in college, I think it was my third year of university, there was a class I was in where we were each encouraged by the teacher to tell the class what our goals were in poetry. And I ended up saying my dream, what my dream was. And I'm not going to say it on camera, but it's a really big deal. And I remember the whole class pretty much laughed at me with the exception of 2 people, right? They laughed at me like, nah, that's ridiculous, whatever, right? And it hurt. It hurt to see how they all doubted me, even though it was the start of class and they didn't even know what I had to bring to the table, right? But I used that as fuel. I remember from that moment, I was like, I'm gonna grind so freaking hard. That year I was going crazy. I mean, I was getting published by literary journals. I was on a slam team, a poetry slam team for my university, and our team got 4th place in the nation. Now, I wasn't vocalizing to the world all the victories I was getting, but one of the people who believed in me in the class, one of the people who didn't laugh at me, I told him about the successes I was having. He told the teacher got really happy for me and told the class, thinking the class would be happy for me as well. I kid you not, the amount of scornful looks I got from members of the class, you would think they'd be happy that a fellow poet is succeeding, right? No.
That part.
Because they remembered that they was doubting me at the start of class. The moment they saw I was actually rising up, you know what I'm saying? In the university, like I was becoming more well known for my poetry and stuff. Oh, that suddenly changed. Now everybody was looking daggers into me, right? Even when it was time to do like workshops of each other's poems, no one wanted to contribute ways to help my poetry improve, even though that's the point of a workshop. Share your opinions about someone's work to help them improve. Nobody was trying to give me any advice or anything like that. I distinctly remember, my G, in those moments, this line came to mind: don't look too good nor talk too wise. And I finally understood what it meant. Don't present your gifts and talents to just anybody such that you become a threat to people or people become jealous of you, right? Be mindful of what you showcase. Anyway, next up we have, if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim. So we have a repetition of line structure there, which is really nice and very appealing to the eyes and even to the ears, to be honest. But this couplet taught me that I should not contemplate my future, but create it. Don't simply be a man of thought, but be a man of action, a man of results. But keep in mind, the line isn't saying you shouldn't dream or you shouldn't think, right? You shouldn't plan. It's not saying that. But if you're going to dream, you're going to think, you're going to plan, make sure to execute. That is important to being a man, the ability to execute, to get things done. You feel me? Next up we have, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. Oof. This is the definition of stoicism on full display. Stoicism is the art of not being moved off center by your emotions, to not be emotionally swayed by circumstances of life, and to respond in a similar way to both victory and defeat. So a great analogy, if you're an NFL player and you lose the Super Bowl, dang, that's tough, I lost. Well, next day I'm in the gym, right? Just like I've been in the gym all this time, I'm still going to the gym. That's your response, right? I'm gonna go train. But let's say you win the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, I won, that's awesome. All right, time to go to the gym. Notice how the response was the same? Because at the end of the day, triumph and disaster are just imposters. They're simply imposters. Think about it this way. A lot of people look at triumph as good and disaster as bad, and they fail to realize that much can be gained from loss, and much can be lost from gain. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Not to go too far away from poetry, but if you've seen the movie The Dark Knight Rises, you'll remember there's this scene between Bane and Batman, Bane being the villain of the movie, and Bane is whacking at Batman, just slaying homie, right? Going crazy on him. And over time, he's like, look at you. Your victory has defeated you. Batman had won so many times, he forgot what it felt like to lose. And that victory, time and time again, it stripped him of his edge. And Bane could see it. He's like, you're soft. You got soft, my G. And he was just laying on him. But guess what? On the flip side, after he took that defeat, after he suffered that disaster, he got his edge back, the will to win. It was restored. So in the process of gaining so much, he lost something valuable to him. But then when he had that major loss, he gained something important back. Are y'all seeing that? Treat triumph and disaster the same. They're just imposters at the end of the day. Much can be gained from loss, and much can be lost from gain. Are y'all seeing that? This is probably my favorite couplet in the entire poem, if I'm being honest with you. And if I bring things back to dating, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. This has been extremely beneficial to me, right? Think about it. If you're a man and you're in the dating game, there's always the chance of being rejected. If you try to spit game at a honey or, tell a shorty like, hey, how about we go out? Let's do this and that, right? She could very easily reject you, which would be considered disaster, right? If you're able to respond to that, even tempered, like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Keep moving forward. Don't let that make you lose hope. Then that's solid, right? But on the flip side, let's say things do go well. You don't get so carried away with that you lose sight of yourself and what's important, right? I see that happen a lot of times. You feel me? Maybe a guy does get in a relationship, he likes his girl, he's super happy, and then all of a sudden he forgets to be training in the gym. He forgets to prioritize hygiene because in his head he's like, I done made it. I made it, right? I got the baddie. Like, that's nice and all, but you're losing something in the process if you're not careful, right? So your response to triumph and disaster, even in the dating game, being one and the same, that is very precious and very important too. You get the girl, great. Keep doing what you were doing before to get the girl, right? You don't get the girl, oh, that's tough. Keep doing what you were doing before, right? If you was hustling before, keep on hustling. The grind don't stop. It never stops. Triumph and disaster are two imposters. Treat them both the same. Y'all see that? Moving on. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools. A knave is just a dishonest person, all right? Now, this couplet in particular, I can't tell you how often this one comes to mind. All right. It's helped me significantly as a YouTuber for the simple fact that anytime I'm discussing a topic that maybe people are sensitive about or they strongly disagree with whatever premise I have, they often will intentionally misconstrue what I said in order to justify their negative sentiments about what I said. This one reaction I did to, what was it called? I think it was called What Society Says to Men, right? I made the comment that I'm glad the poet says that men should be able to cry, right? And I even said men should cry if they feel the need to. But I went on to say that it's beneficial for a man to have the internal fortitude where hardships that come his way don't even elicit the need to cry for the most part, right? I said something along those lines, and someone hopped in the comment section like, oh, toxic masculinity, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dang, I didn't even want to respond because like clearly you completely misconstrued what I said. Men, if you feel the need to cry, then cry, that's fine. But over time, hopefully you're developing yourself internally where just anything doesn't make you cry. The need to cry doesn't come up much at all because, like I said before, you're not moved emotionally by hardships that come your way. Like that should be the goal ultimately. So anyway, even what I said just now, even though I tried to clarify it, I'm sure someone's going to enter the comment section like, that's wrong. I'm unsubscribing, blah. Like, okay, if you want to unsubscribe, fine. Okay.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
And that's an example of what I mean, essentially. My words being twisted, the truth I've spoken being twisted to make a trap for others. Other people are going to be like, oh, so stoicism is toxic? According to this person in the comment section, I don't want to do that. And now these people, because they've misconstrued what I said, have set a trap for others. Like that is the best example I can give of that in my life. Literally that. So yeah, take that with you. Or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. This requires a lot of humility, and that is a very good trait for a man to possess, humility, to go back to your bare bones beginnings, right? Go back to those humble beginnings after you've worked so hard to excel in a career or something like that. Or like maybe you've worked so hard to complete a project and it all falls apart and you have to start from scratch. Oh my God. Or having to move to a new country, right? I spoke about how my dad exemplifies this in a lot of ways. So does my mom in some regards, right? They were well educated, had to come to America, had to start all over from scratch. You know what I'm saying? In Nigeria, they was popping, right? But they wanted a better life than me and my siblings before we even came into the world. So they came to America, and having to start from the beginning took a lot of humility on both of their parts, you know? However, this couplet isn't only talking about the importance of humility, right? Having the humility to start over, but also the resilience to keep moving forward as if nothing ever happened. That's something that's really hard, y'all. Not a lot of folks can say they're capable of that. A lot of folks pretend like they are, but in reality, it's much easier to say than to do, right? Much easier said than done, you feel me? Some of you may not have been following me during this time, but I remember like a year ago, my car was broken into and robbed of a lot of my YouTube equipment, a lot of my personal belongings. The damage, including the loss of personal equipment, was a total of $3,000, which is pretty hard. I had to start from scratch. I lost my hard drive as well, which had a lot of videos that were pre-recorded that I plan to put out in the future. It was tough, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, but being willing to just like start from scratch, like nothing ever happened, and just have that resilience, it came from this line right here, this couplet rather, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. You know what I'm saying? It took a while to get the equipment back. You feel me? Like it was hard, man, but I thugged it out and here I am. So yeah, that couplet definitely did a lot for me. And furthermore, when it comes to having the humility and resilience to start over and keep moving forward, that helped me a lot in the dating game. You know, there was a point I was dating somebody for years. I thought I was going to go the distance with her, and I realized it wasn't going to work out. And I thought to myself, I remember before I broke up with her, I thought, dang, I've invested so many years into this. I really don't want to start over. That's going to be really hard. You know what I'm saying? And she's a good person. Hope she's doing well. But at the end of the day, I knew it was best. And I had to start, you know, building my dating life back up from scratch. That's just how it be. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm in a happy relationship, love my girl and stuff. But I would have never got into my current relationship, which is good and healthy, had I not let go of that old one, right? So I made one heap of all my winnings, risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and I lost. And I had to start again at my beginnings. But I never breathed a word about my loss. You didn't hear me talk about no breakup on YouTube, right? I just kept thugging it out, kept grinding, right? And now here I am in a happier relationship, which I'm glad to say. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, this is the importance of being future-minded as a man.
But it is over. Unless this is the future.
Not being so focused on instant pleasure, instant gratification, working now with every fiber of your being, your heart, your nerves, your sinews, which are like your tendons and ligaments, using every bit of you to grind now so that even after you're gone, those you leave behind will benefit from you existing, from you living. You see what I'm saying? This is working to leave a legacy for your family, for your children, your children's children, your children's children's children. And so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will, which says to them, hold on. So that's tenacity by definition. I'm currently drawing strength from this couplet as we speak because it's no secret, my YouTube channel has become pretty stagnant in terms of growth, in terms of views, which sucks. Sucks pretty hard, but just being able to continue on in spite of everything telling me I should just abandon the YouTube channel, maybe start a new one, and maybe I should, who knows, right? Like the previous lines were saying, sometimes you gotta watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. So maybe I should start another channel, who knows? But I currently have the feeling that I should hold on with everything in me. You know what I'm saying? So that couplet's really helping me there. Next up we have, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. This is the importance of remaining relatable to the average man, but not following the crowd at the same time. Does that make sense? Be able to relate to your fellow human being, to the average person, but don't resemble the crowd in everything they do, or you will simply remain part of the crowd. Instead, be a well-respected leader that remains connected to those who follow him, right? If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. So be able to relate with your fellow man, the average person, but live by a certain standards that you walk with kings. Does that make sense? That's real heavy right there. So don't get lost in the sauce. If you end up making it, right? If you reach celebrity status, if you become rich, right? Still be able to relate to your average man.
Get the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you. This is all about having thick skin. Don't be so easily offended, is more or less what it's saying. This doesn't mean ignore your feelings, like I said before. Kipling literally explains in the next line how not to be so easily hurt by those who love you. So after he says, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, he says, if all men count with you, but none too much. All right? That means to designate appropriate value to everyone. So if a man counts with you, if a person counts with you, that means they matter to you. They have value to you, intrinsic value to you. However, it's important to develop the internal posture that people's opinions of you and their actions towards you don't carry too much weight. So this is especially important when it comes to not idolizing people. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, this right here is the ability to endure self-induced pain and suffering for the sake of growth and development. Notice how previous times where he was talking about resilience, it was having resilience against things that come against you, right? Against hardships that are outside of your control, more or less, right? But this time he's saying, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, that's something you're putting on yourself. That stress, that pain you're going through, it's because you're doing a crazy amount of running and you're tired and you're fatigued, but still going, right? That's self-induced pain, but it's for the sake of growth. This instilled in me the importance of fitness as a man. And now he's specifically talking about cardio here, which is an important aspect of fitness that I started incorporating after I read this couplet and incorporated it into my life. But you can apply it to anything beyond that, just any kind of pain and suffering that we put on ourselves intentionally for the sake of growth. And when I say I took that couplet to heart, I mean I took it to heart. Now here's the thing. If I simply say that, y'all are gonna be like, oh sure, okay, you started working on your fitness. Yeah, like if I just say that, you're gonna see me as a poet and think to yourself, no you didn't. So I'm gonna have to show you proof, all right? Before I started training, my nickname was Flaco amongst a lot of my friends, right? That means skinny in Spanish. I was skinny. You feel me? Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But I really took this seriously because I wanted to develop myself as the best man I could possibly be. So the poem was saying here that fitness matters, being able to endure through intentional pain, right? Putting yourself through pain for the sake of growth. The moment I saw this, I was like, all right, cool. I started doing more cardio, started doing weightlifting. In a matter of just 2 years, I transformed myself, right? I mean, what else is there to say? This poem changed my life. And yeah, that did help me in the dating game. Call it vain, call it whatever. I'm just being honest with you. It helped, okay? It did. So yeah, and ultimately, like the poem says, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. All right, so I really hope you all enjoyed this analysis. I certainly did. It's just fun chatting with y'all, breaking poems apart. I don't do analyses often, but I do plan to do them more. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time. Deuces.